everybody, it's Jago here with the Shot Clock podcast. It's a little bit of a side journey from our usual light-hearted banter. This is an episode where we're going to sit down and try and get to not even to the bottom of what Bernard O'Byrne's comment meant and felt for people, but more what we're going to do going forward as such a diverse organisation and Ireland as a whole. So some of these people, the people who I have on are leading lights and have been through the Black Lives Matter and diversity as a whole. Andrew Sanders is a professor of political science with Texas A&M in San Antonio, former Star of the Sea player, remembered me dunking and talking shit to Scotty Summersgill during the game, which is always nice. I've got Hilary Nets on. Hilary obviously was part of the diversity committee of Basketball Ireland and was, felt he had to step down so he could speak his truth last week. Farooq Raheem, a Leicester player for now. I reckon he's going to aim it, but don't tell anybody. Is also one of the voices that was on during the summer during the Black Lives Matter. And of course, Mr. Prof Summers, the voice on anything that's anything in Basketball Ireland. Let's be fair. Puff always has something intelligent to say. So, I'm just going to start this by saying one thing. I reached out to Bernard O'Byrne continuously from Thursday onwards to get him on this show. I was offering him a platform to sit with us and discuss his comment and how he felt it was okay to throw such an off-the-cuff remark, which hurt deeply a lot of people in Basketball Ireland and around the island of Ireland. Bernard has declined, or actually just not replied. I will continue to try and get him on this show because I want to hear his truth. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Let's get going.
Hey, did you check your spam to make sure, bro? Check your spam.
Look, I checked BBC's website first because that seems to be his way of communicating with people. But no, there was nothing there.
Thanks for having us, Jago. I'm just going to start that by clearing up the little comments. I'm very happy with Leicester through and through. No, not moving anywhere. Thank you. Just clearing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew, let's start with you. Somebody who has written books on the IRA and stuff up in Belfast. You spent some time there. You did some time in Queens. Moved back to Scotland to play some basketball and continue your studies. Now a professor of political science. From the outside looking in, as somebody who was on the inside looking out, how do you feel about everything that's gone on in the last 5 days?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, Jago. I really love this podcast. I really enjoyed the one you did with Scotty. And like I said, when we were emailing earlier this week, I remember playing against you when, Hoops had that. You had a good team that year, with Kevin Young, who's, I don't know what happened to that guy. I mean, I think that was the highlight of his career.
Yeah, I think he's coaching some little team now, the Phoenix
is something like that.
Yeah, I think he's a bit busy. I tried to get him on. He's a little bit busy. I think he's a game. I don't know where he's.
Yeah. Anyway, he learned a lot from you. So I've obviously been over in the US now for 9 years. We've been living here, and I've been teaching, a number of institutions. I'm now in San Antonio. San Antonio is a majority minority city. Most of the people who live in San Antonio are of Hispanic origin. And we have a Hispanic serving institution, which means that institutionally our goal is to try and serve certain communities in San Antonio, right? So that's kind of what I do professionally. My research has been on Ireland throughout. You mentioned the conflicts. I've written about groups in the conflict, and I was working on the Irish diaspora for my most recent project, where I was based out of UCD. Actually, I was in UCD for a couple of years before we moved over here. My current project that I'm doing is, I have a few things on the go, but we're really looking at how basketball and sport, but specifically basketball, plays a role in Irish society. So we're looking at the North. Basketball is being used by cross-community groups as a tool for reconciliation. You have Peace Players International, other groups are coming in, Gareth McGuire's work with Sport Changes Life, they're trying to use basketball as a tool for social reconciliation in Northern Ireland, but also more broadly. And the project that I've been working on, with some people who can't join us today for different reasons, is really looking at how inclusive is the game of basketball in Ireland? And the starting point for this was the establishment of the diversity panel, right? Because a year ago, Ireland saw significant protests after the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, we all saw the video, we all witnessed the aftermath. And then recently we've seen his killer go to jail. And Basketball Ireland set up this diversity panel in response to Black Lives Matter, right? So when we look back to last week, that immediately tells you can't be trivializing Black Lives Matter, okay? That's not something that you can do, particularly when you're in a leadership role for an organization that has made this commitment to diversity. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the first things that I think really struck me was that immediately trivializes this thing that you're supposed to be taking seriously. Obviously, since then, we've seen people giving abuse to the women's team who are competing in international competitions, and that's not good either. So I think both of these events remind us that actually there are still significant problems when it comes to inclusivity in Irish basketball, and what are we going to do about it? That's kind of one of the key questions that hopefully we'll explore a little bit here.
Excellent. Hilary, you felt you had to step down from the diversity panel just to get your voice heard. How did that make you feel? Because I know how passionate you are about the Black Lives Matter campaign and diversity and inclusion. How did it make you feel, first of all, when you saw the initial tweet, and then secondly, going forward, having to step down so you could speak your truth?
Yeah, it was a mixture of emotions when I first saw the Facebook post, but the main thing was kind of shock and disappointment in seeing that, and initially following that, you know, when I was kind of told that I can't speak because I'm part of a Basketball Ireland committee or an organization, whatever it is, just was crazy to me, because I joined the Diversity and Inclusion Committee to bring awareness to how diverse our league actually is and how our country actually is, and, you know, try to help all these issues with anti-racism, anti-discrimination, everything. So once I was told that I couldn't speak, I kind of had a conversation with a mentor of mine, and, you know, we came to the decision to step down from the committee so that I can actually speak my truth and be able to stand up for what's right, because there's support in silence. You know, the organization asking people not to say anything, I think really affected me, but it also affected a lot of people within my circle who were also like, that they hit me up and they're like, oh, we've been told that we can't say anything or whatever it was. But like, I'm in full support of you. Like, as soon as whatever they decide, I'm going to speak up. And I felt like those people were in different positions than I am. Like, I'm a volunteer for Basketball Ireland on that committee. The rest of the people on that committee are volunteers as well. So for that, for me to be told that I can't speak up, like, they're not paying my bills. They're not putting food on my table. I'm going to speak up about what's right, especially when it comes to this. I'm going to speak up.
Farooq, same question to you. How did you feel when you initially saw the tweet, and then, you know, 5 days later, you know, Bernard's been stepped down from his position? Yeah. Like, how are you feeling now?
I think when I first seen it, it was more of a state of shock. Actually, like, I remember I seen the post. Hilary was actually the one that sent it to me. I read it, and I was kind of like, oh, Black Lives Matter. I was like, oh, I've seen it already. I've had my anger, and I've moved on from it. And then it was like, look at who said it. I was like, I checked it again, and I was just like confused, in denial. Like Hilla said, there was a whole mix of emotion. I had to read it a few times. I clicked in. I was like, ain't no way. I was like, it don't make sense. Like, ain't no way that somebody we put in a leadership position in our organization. Like, again, we all love so much. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. So I think for like the first couple of hours, because I was out and about when I first saw it, I was kind of like, oh, no, like I was confused. I was like, it just wouldn't register with me. I didn't want to process it. My brain chose to like go numb and go into denial, because I didn't have the head to start this whole Black Lives Matter. Like, I shouldn't have to tell people because my skin is darker than yours, I matter. So my brain had just shut down. It's tired the past year that we've gone through. So I was like, nah, not happening. Then I got home, I pulled it out again, I looked at it and it just dwelled on me. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then like straight away, like it's just a rush of thoughts and different emotion. I was kind of like, if he feels so open to say that on a Facebook comment with hundreds and thousands of people seeing it, what's he saying in his WhatsApp group
I'm
chat?
just going to say, sorry for to interrupt you. It's the BBC
Yeah.
website that he posted on has 9.2 million followers.
Oh yeah, like that's the CEO of Basketball Ireland posting and commenting something so vulgar on a platform like that. So it's like if he feels comfortable enough to post that to the public eye, what kind of things would he say in private? What would he be posting in his WhatsApp group chat? What would he be sharing amongst his tight circle? So I was like, look, I don't want to do that to myself and dwell on it and just get thinking. But I was like, whoa, that is very crazy. And then when I hit Twitter, I wasn't sure what kind of feedback we'd get on Twitter. But obviously, I'm sad the whole situation happened. But I'm very happy with the outrage across the country. I feel like that's a step in the right direction. I feel like there was a lot of support, a lot of allies. So like I was also surprised with how big the publicity was of the whole thing and the coverage. And it did fill me with joy and pride that, okay, Ireland understands racism. We are moving in the right direction. There are still people, I don't want to say like Bernard, but there are people who don't see an issue with it. But I feel like if this case was to happen like a year ago before the summer we had, the response would have been different. It would have been brushed under the carpet kind of thing. So I'm definitely going to say, like, I'm still hurt about it. I'm still in shock that it happened, but it's good to see that he has stepped down, that action has been taken. It did take longer than people would have liked, but we got the outcome we wanted. So Basketball Ireland are showing a zero tolerance towards racism, which I think is very important and definitely moving in the right direction.
Prof, I was lucky enough to be with you Friday morning. The morning after, I could feel your outrage. I could feel your hurt. I could feel your pain. Just speak on that. You know, that initial. I'm sure your phone blew up just like mine did when it happened.
Yeah.
You know, to go to bed feeling that anger, to wake up, to get to the gym, to teach your kids as you do every day. How did it affect you that day?
I mean, like when I first got it, like I think I got it in one of my team group chats, and I thought it was like a prank because you know how you get all this sorts of shit in your group chats. You know what I mean? Like all the crazy videos and memes that come in. And I was like, oh, like Bernard ain't saying that. Like ain't nobody saying that, right? And then so I think Hillary then sent it to me, and I was like, yo, like somebody hacked him. Like somebody had to hack him. It had to be a hack, you know? And then I got it from another person. I was like, yo, is this really a thing? Like, is this really a thing that we have to go through? Right. And then I think my initial reaction was that like, here we go, like this situation has arisen, and okay, now all the calls and all the texts are going to come at me, reminding me once again that I'm the black guy and that I better speak up for the black people. Like, here we go. Like, there's a racist situation going on, or there's a comment that has racial undertones. Like, okay, black men to the rescue. Come educate us and tell us what's wrong with it, and like, how do we make it better? You know? And I was like, here we fucking go, man. Like, I don't want to have to do this. Like, I want to go to the gym with the few kids I get to train, and I want to play basketball, and I want to coach, and I want to hoop, and you know what I mean? Like everything is simple. I want everything to be simple, but you know, it wasn't, and I don't know. It's like it was 3 words of a comment, and for 3 simple words to just kind of dig deep to be like, you know, it was just that feeling of like, here we go. Like, you know, now we got to tackle this subject again. And now we have to talk about what blackness is and why it's important. And like, it's overwhelming sometimes, you know, and I wish it was unnecessary, but it's obviously not, because the cycle keeps happening over and over and over, you know?
So look, personally, I think now that's been dealt with and Bernard has stepped down, as a group, as an organization, what do Basketball Ireland need to do to drive diversion and drive inclusivity and drive it going forward, to make comments like that, you know, they're never going to go away. There's always going to be, you know, somebody who has something to say. But what do we do as an organization, as a group of people, to try and drive this forward? Andrew, I'll go to you on this one, because, you know, with your background and, you know, with the conflict and Belfast and the census numbers that you sent me, you know, just talk a bit on that, and then let's get into just a discussion about how do we move forward.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the first things that I think is important that everybody realize is that we haven't really kind of tackled how diverse Ireland is historically. Ireland only started recording race and ethnicity in its census in 2006. So from 2005 going all the way back, Ireland's never really known how diverse it is. And when we look at the data from the most recent census in the Republic and then also in Northern Ireland, we're really only looking at, you know, 1% of the entire population of Ireland as identifying as Black. Now, there are different categories in Ireland. They enumerate Black Irish, Black African, or other Black. And in Northern Ireland, it's just Black. And in Northern Ireland, it's 0.2% of the population. So immigration to Ireland is something that's reasonably new. And for that reason, Ireland has not had the same history of racism as other places. You know, where I'm from in the United Kingdom and where I live in the United States, there's completely different experiences, right? So this is something that Ireland needs to learn from other places. And there are other examples of effective and ineffective ways of tackling this. And I think that one of the things that Basketball Ireland needs to realize is that it actually does have an important role to play here. And everybody who's involved in basketball in Ireland, they need to realize that they have a role as well. And, you know, Prof alluded to it a second ago. It's not okay to start demanding other people tell you about these things. You know, it's not okay for us to look to people who aren't white and say, well, why is this a problem for you? You know, you can learn yourself. But it's important that people who are white take leadership roles in this as well. And I think that there are opportunities currently for people involved in basketball across Ireland to step up. And I'd really like to see that coming to the fore going forwards. And, you know, one of the things that I've talked about before when we had the Courtside Collective basketball blog, that's, you know, Basketball Ireland actually has a role in deciding who gets to be Irish, right? I wrote an article almost 8.5 years ago about Jermaine Turner, right? Jermaine Turner, obviously born in the United States, lived in Ireland, has lived in Ireland for a long time. At the time I wrote the article, he was in the process of legal action on Basketball Ireland because Basketball Ireland were telling him he wasn't Irish, right? An Irish passport, an Irish family, he lived in Ireland, he was an Irish taxpayer, and most significantly, I think he was eligible to play for the Irish national basketball team. But Basketball Ireland said that you're not Irish, you have to play as an import in our league. And I think that this mindset still exists, and it's problematic that Basketball Ireland doesn't realize that it plays an important role in deciding who gets to be Irish, right? And this is something that we really need to think very seriously about going forward, okay? You know, we've talked about underage teams and the diversity that you see in underage teams, not just in terms of race, but we're also seeing a lot of Lithuanian kids, Latvian kids, migrants from about 16, 17 years ago. Their kids are now playing basketball for Ireland. And that diversity is something that should be embraced. And Basketball Ireland needs to think very seriously about how we're going to do that going forward.
Hill, with you coaching in inner city Dublin and now Farooq as well, I know you're involved as well with Farooq. You see the diversity coming through your doors every day. You see, you know, kids joining, you know, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different social backgrounds, monetarily even. You're on the front line. How do we get better? How do we get better at including people in this organization? Hill, you go first.
Okay, Hill.
Me?
Either one.
Yeah. Look, there's no one answer to say this is the thing that we're going to do to get everybody included in basketball. I think one thing that basketball needs to look at as an organization is what does diversity and inclusion mean to them, and how important is it to the future of basketball in this country. I think taking a leaf out of other countries' books, like you look at Spain, you look at all these other teams, and their teams aren't just, you know, Spanish looking girls or Spanish looking guys. There's some kids in there that are black kids, and the country is fully embracing them on those teams. There's different things that they have in place to support people. And I think that's one thing that has never been clear for Basketball Ireland, like how important inclusion actually is, and how like what it actually means to them. You know, it's just a blanket statement to say we are diverse, we are all inclusive, just because, you know, you've had the likes of me and Farooq, the likes of other black kids and other multinational kids who've just fallen into basketball. You know what I mean? There wasn't an initiative for me to jump onto the court when I was 12 years old. My brother just happened. My mom told my brother to bring me to the court. You know what I mean? There needs to be a full discussion between the heads of Basketball Ireland, between Sport Ireland, to really discuss what diversity means and how important it is to us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything Hillary has said there. A big kind of part of a big area of diversity, like I've always had the interest in, is like the disadvantaged areas. So like years back, I know I had a conversation with a lot of people on Twitter because I was just talking about the lack of black people playing basketball at a high level in the country. And like it sparked a conversation, and people straight away went defensive, as if I was saying coaches don't pick players because they're black. Where I was coming from a black perspective, and I was worried as to the amount of talent I see at like under 15, 16 levels that never progressed to senior. And I was thinking about how we could improve that. So like I'm from Blanche, and I would say Blanche is a very diverse community. But an issue we have in Blanche, not even an issue, is but like there's no Super League clubs out in Blanche. There's no National League clubs out in Blanche. So you see the 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, extremely talented kids, but they have no one to look up to. So I have seen that as an issue, because it's not like on a Saturday night they're going, where I have in Colester, Saturday night, you see all the kids in the RWA sitting there watching the games, having someone to look up to. You don't have that in Blanche. You don't have the role models to look up to. I don't know what the funding system is. I don't know what supports are provided, but I think additional support to heavily black communities would be a very beneficial kind of thing. So if Ongar Chasers would have been my club in Blanche, and if they had the additional support to try and produce a National League team, I can guarantee you half of that team would be black kids. Because if you look down the age groups, you have a lot of black kids playing in them areas, the likes of Clondalkin, the likes of Tala, where they don't have that progression, which I feel leads to issues. So if you have that progression where in them areas there is a National League club, there is a Super League club, there is a progression, that's like what, 5 or 6 more black players playing in the Super League. And if you see someone that looks like you playing at that level, you'll be more pushed. Because when I was a young person, the only black people I seen were the Westbrooks. So I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan of Isaac and Pope. First time I picked up a basketball was a Colester game I was watching. I seen them too. And then it's always Americans. It's always Americans. It's never black Irish type thing. So that's one thing that made me very eager to play basketball. And I still go down to Ongar whenever I can. I'll still talk to the kids. They'll help out with anything I can, just to show them that I don't want to be like, oh, I made it kind of thing, do a big LeBron made out of hood speech. But I was like, look, just because you're living in Ongar doesn't mean you can't play in the Super League. type of thing. Yeah, you haven't got the facilities right now for it. You haven't got the club right now. But I feel like me being a black person from Wanga playing there is starting the conversation, starting the cycle that I'd like to get into with having more black players represented across our national and Super League levels. So, like I said, the support to the more disadvantaged and the more diverse communities around Dublin and around the country will be a good start in increasing the level of diversity we have in our country.
Well, a slightly different question from you. Living outside of Dublin, you know what I mean, and living in Kilkenny, what's the diversity like down there as regards like your club down there and you know your bunch of kids and what do we need to do? Like I was in Kilkenny at the weekend. It's a multicultural city. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? How many of those kids are playing ball? How
but
many?
it's crazy because there's a court, an outdoor court about literally 2 minutes from where I live, and you know I'll walk past there or I'll drive past with my kids sometimes, and you'll see a gang of black kids out there. You'll see a gang of black kids and a gang of Filipinos out there, and they're just hooping, and it's like, you know, it's like girls sitting there watching them. It's like it's thick out there, you know, and then it's like none of these kids are involved in the club that's here, you know. So a few times I've seen it. Like I only just recently moved into town, so a few times I'll walk up there and I'll kind of go up there and, you know, just be the hype guy that I am, and I'm, you know, I'm just talking trash to everybody, trying NBA moves that they've seen on Instagram or whatever, and just trying to put myself in there with that culture that I don't, because I'm you know I'm the coach and director of Kilkenny Stars. I've I've never seen any of these kids. Like, and I'm at so many schools in Kilkenny, and you'll see, you know, 4 or 5 black kids in the class, and you know it's just like why have I not seen you yet? Like, why are you not involved in this club? Um, and yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot of untapped potential, obviously, you know, maybe, or it just might be kids that, you know, are yearning for something to fall in love with, and they've had no one to be there to push them towards that thing. You know what I mean? Like I coach in St. Karen's College, here in Kilkenny, which is like the hurling, it's like the hurling school of Ireland. Like, you know what I mean? Like they churn out, uh, you know, county players or whatever. But like I'll see 2 or 3 of the little black kids with the skinny legs and come out there with the short shorts on with the hurls, and I'm just like, yeah, yo, like come hoop, like come hoop, like this game was kind of created, and what it's become, it's like side by side with the hip hop culture, it's side by side with black culture. Like this game is not like this game is for our people, for black people, and not saying it's not for white people, not in any way, but like it's something that black folks for the whole history of the game, especially me coming from America, have, you know, we have put ourselves alongside the history and the growth of basketball, you know. So I think there's definitely, um, and the way that I really look at it, Jago, is that, like, you know, when you have like your team talks at the beginning of the season, everybody sits down and you have your goals and your standards that you set for teams, and which is great. You have your non-negotiables, whatever. Every team does this. You know what I mean? And all of that becomes bullshit if you don't come back to that after 4 weeks, or you come back to that after 6 or 8 weeks, and you revisit, like, are we still on par with what we said we were going to do at the beginning? You know what I mean? So like, whatever happens with diversity and inclusion, and whatever route we choose to take, it can't be something that's like, you know, I put on that 6 week course for underprivileged black kids, tick, check. You know what I mean? That's not it. It has to be something that's revisited over and over. Like, we have to have someone who's willing, and maybe it's the development officers, maybe they have to start calling the specific clubs in their areas and saying, like, you know, what's your diversity? What's it looking like in your club? What's inclusion? Like, are you having sessions for kids with disabilities? Do you have any multiracial, multinational kids within your club? Like, or do they feel included? Have you asked them how they feel? You know what I mean? Like, it's constant, right? It's constant because we wake up black and looking different every single day. You know what I mean? Just because you put a 6-week course on for us doesn't mean that, oh my God, I feel Irish now. Like, nah, I feel different every day. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it just like, it's definitely something that's untapped here. And like for me moving into town recently, and I'm only really seeing it. Like I drove by this court and I was like, oh my God, man, I go up and see him and everybody knows who I am. They're like, oh my God, that's Puff Summers. And I feel like, you know, a black celebrity, like, you know what I mean? I feel like a black celebrity in Kilkenny. They're like, oh my God, that's Puff Summers. And I'm like, yo, like, I want to rap with y'all. I want to talk to you. Let's do something, you know? And, you know, I think I felt sad the first time I drove by and saw all these black kids that I've never really had any interactions with, you know?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, I think I really agree, and I want to touch on what Puff just said there. Jacob, you had mentioned the inner city. I do a lot of volunteer work out here with Michael Darmacaulay, and like Farooq can probably echo this as well. When we play out in the Mount Joy court, the Fairview court, there's a bunch of courts that we play out in the city. There is some hoopers out here. But if I said Super League to them, or if I said National League, they'd look at me confused and be like, what's that? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of kids that I see around here with potential to be actual basketball players. And I'm just like, it's disheartening to be like, how do I not know who you are? Like, how do you not know what basketball in Ireland is? Like, it's one of those things. And I think on top of that, the fact that our exposure is so limited is one of the contributing factors to that. Like we get
Cup weekend,
one maybe two games on TV,
Cup weekend
a year.
That's it.
Like, and it's like big shout outs to TG4. Like, thank you so much for doing that. And I can't remember what other channel it was, but like we need more exposure. Like parents as well aren't looking at basketball and going, oh yeah, cool. I saw basketball on TV the other day. They're like, oh, I saw the FAI. I saw the GAA cool camps. Let me send my kid there. They're not going, oh, I saw the Basketball Ireland camp. Especially foreign nationals. They're not looking at RTE News and going, oh yeah, they were talking about Michael Darmacaulay. Let me send my kid to do GAA. You know what I mean? Like we need more exposure to our sport as well as a bunch of other issues. Like I feel like we're gonna be here for a couple of hours.
Hey, but real, but for real, like you can ask like even like a lot of kids. Like I know that I train a few kids who play for even Irish teams, and go ask them their favorite 10 Super League players. They don't know shit. They don't know the players, right? No. And it's not about that. Like the black kids don't play. Like that's call a spade a spade. The black kids don't play because that shit is too expensive. Like that's keep it a buck. You know what I mean? Like why did I start playing basketball? Why was I outside of the park every day when I was younger? Because that shit was free. You know what I mean? Like why did I try out for the school team? That shit was free. And we got some fresh gear, and I got to get out of class. Like that's call it what it is. Basketball is a poor man's sport in America. Basketball is a poor man's sport in a lot of places in the world, and basketball here is not like that shit's expensive. You know what I mean? And yo, real shit. Like this shit is just like golf, or it's just like tennis.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Farooq, you said there a couple of minutes ago about Tala and Blanche. So me and my best friend set up an academy in Tala. I was like, right, what do we charge? Because Tala has such a large area, the home of basketball with the National Basketball Arena, Tala has no kids basketball clubs.
Yeah.
None.
Like,
right. So we set up our academy. We said, how much are we going to charge these kids? So we went back and forward. And Andrew, this goes back to something you said about, you know, costings and that basketball, and as Puff just alluded to there, it's a rich man's game. I said, look, what can parents afford? €5. You're going to find €5 somewhere in your house. You're going to find change down the crack of the sofa. You're going to have it, you know, in a sock drawer. You're going to get it on the floor of the car. €5 is affordable. Even if you're broke, you're going to rustle together €5. So that's what we made our cost. It was €5. That's it. €5 a week. Come and hoop for an hour and a half. We've got 120 kids in our academy.
Fair play.
And
Yeah.
emails coming in every single day. Andrew, back to your point, diversity.
Mhm.
Basketball Ireland need to bring these kids in, whether they're black, white, Irish, non-Irish, whatever. The costing and that social economic barrier that's being created. How do Basketball Ireland make basketball accessible and truly diverse? Because diversity is not just about race, it's not about sexuality, it's also about how much bread you got in your pocket at the end of the week. Can you afford to send your kid camps? €75 for 4 days, €100 for this. You've got 2 or 3 kids. Where are you getting that €300 from?
You
What
can't
do
have
we
people
need to do
priced
as an
out.
organization to get the people who want to hoop? Puff, I'm sure a lot of those kids in Kilkenny can't afford to go and play with you, can't afford to go and play in a club. Basketball Ireland, what do you need to do? What do we need to do as an organization to bring these kids in?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys make comments that allude to outreach, whether that be in Kilkenny or Dublin or anywhere else. And there needs to be more active outreach. And part of that is going to be partnering with leisure centres, because obviously you don't have great weather in Ireland quite a lot of the time, regrettably. At least I've led to believe. I haven't been there for a while. But, you can't necessarily get to an outdoor court when the weather's bad. So how are you creating access for people in the indoor courts, right? How are you partnering with leisure centres or schools or universities or whatever it might be to make sure that kids in the area can just show up at a gym and shoot around and play a game and just kind of get involved at that level? And I know even up to the top level, I've spoken to people who play senior men who are talking about the cost. Whether that means players having to pay their way to go and play for the national team, whether that means having to pay their way to get to practice, right? Because the practices, you have the arena. I know all the national team practices don't necessarily take place at the arena, but you got to get there. And can you afford to do that? Can you afford to take time off work? Because basketball is not a professional sport in Ireland for most people. So how are you facilitating that at the top level? And then you have to think all the way down. Kids packing bags at Super Value to try and raise money to go and play for the national team. It's not ideal. So I think one of the things that's going to be really important for whoever steps in as the CEO is that business outreach, bringing in money, bringing in sponsorship, partnering with the government as well to try and create more access for everybody. And that goes to fundraising so that our national team players don't have to fork out €2,000 or €3,000 to go and play in whatever tournament it is, all the way down to making sure that any kids hanging out on a Thursday evening in Kilkenny or Dublin or anywhere else in the country knows that they can go and find the gym and shoot around in. And that's going to be a big challenge for whoever steps into this role. But also, and I think something that we'll come on to in a little bit, partnering with everybody across basketball in Ireland, and including the diversity panel, because I think the diversity panel is going to have a role in this moving forward too. At least it should.
So let's talk about the diversity panel. Hill, you've firsthand experience. Personally, I think the diversity panel should be like the Garda Ombudsman, a wholly independent panel who govern, who regulate Basketball Ireland. And that's when there's a mistake like Bernard made, the diversity panel are the ones who step in there and say, hang on, here's our statement on what happened. This is how we feel. It will be investigated and we will get back to you within a day or two. Should that be the way going forward, that the diversity panel, and we've spoken about this, that, there are paid Basketball Ireland people on that committee? Should they be? Or should it be a wholly separate committee used to govern and regulate Basketball Ireland the way the Garda Ombudsman regulates the Gardaí? Opinions, please.
I'm definitely behind the the push to make the Diversity and Inclusion Committee completely independent of Basketball Ireland. As we had spoke earlier on, and Andrew had said, there should be a liaison officer who works for Basketball Ireland there, of course, but it definitely should be an independent committee to Basketball Ireland. Like, I've spoken to a close family friend of mine and one of the guys who runs Sports Against Racism Ireland, Ken McHugh, and he was saying to me as well, he was asking me a bunch of questions about the committee, and you know, it's difficult to do a lot of work for the committee as volunteers. You know, like the people on the committee themselves, they're chairperson of a whole basketball club. They're running the trainings for a whole basketball club. There's a parent, there's 2 young people working. You know, there's a lot that it takes to actually do work for that committee. And I'll never knock any of the work that we did for the committee. Like, we brought forward ideas, we had actions in place, and it's unfortunate maybe the COVID situation held us back a little bit in actually implicating those things, as you know, there are no teams playing or clubs active. But as I was saying, the committee should definitely be independent of Basketball Ireland. It would do a lot more for us, especially when situations like this happen. No one's going to be told to be quiet. You know, the committee's going to meet, they're going to come to a decision, they're going to put forward a statement. We'll have, you know, more access or ability to even put forward a training to Basketball Ireland staff, put forward a training to Basketball Ireland team managers, coaches, players, different things like that. It would just be a lot better rather than being governed by Basketball Ireland.
Farooq, Prof, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, the main reason Hilla stepped down in the first place was not being able to say how he felt. Like, obviously, he is a black man. He is a black man that plays basketball in the country. So if him going back on the committee means he can't speak independently and talk about how he feels, I wouldn't see why he would go back. So I definitely think it should be a separate body to Basketball Ireland, and a body that allows the individuals on the committee to express how they feel when an issue does arise. So
yeah, for me, it's like, we just, like, the reason that the diversity, like, the committee is there is, like, to tackle issues dealing with diversity. And this was an issue dealing with like racial undertones. You know what I mean? So at the least, like, I think we needed a statement from our diversity committee. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you are here for. Like, you are here to help educate the people in our game associated with our governing body, educate us about these different issues going on and these different situations. So, you know, I understand they were trying to take care of things in a certain kind of way with Basketball Ireland, and that's fine. But if anyone was going to make a statement, it was going to be this committee. So, you know, like, I would still like to hear something from the committee. You know, I know Hillary had to step down from it so that he could speak, and he felt like he needed to step off of it so that he could speak. But you know, I know they're doing good things. I know it's full of people who care about the subject and who have opinions on it. And if they can come to a, you know, to an agreed opinion as far as being a committee, like, you know, we need to hear it, man. We need to hear your voices. You know, there's a lot of strong minds and strong voices on that committee, and for that specific reason, to be our voice, you know.
Absolutely. So going forward, where do we go from here? Simple question to kind of wrap things up. Where do we go from here? What's next for our organization?
I mean, I feel maybe, like, I don't know what the current policies and whatnot is regarding diversity and racism and tolerance, but possibly a review of the documents and the formality side of it. Times are changing, so we have to make sure we're keeping up with the times. Everything's up to date. There is a very clear and open zero tolerance for racism or any sort of discrimination in our game. Make sure that's made clear to all the clubs. Make sure the clubs also have a zero tolerance policy for any sort of behavior like that moving forward. And once again, with the committee, make sure we have a nice, strong committee in place that will go on to do great things, I'm sure, once the season starts back up. So, and personally, like I would like to say, I'm a very pro-black person. So, like when I do see black kids playing basketball or a black person put on the Irish top, I don't know who they are, and straight away I'll probably put them on my story, rooting for them 100%. It fills me with so much joy. So when I'm in Blanche, when I'm in Talon, I see kids playing around, or if I go to school, because I do a lot of refing in school, I'll see a couple of kids going up with crazy dunks, this and that. Straight away, I'm pulling them over. What club do you play for? They tell me they don't play for a club or stuff like that. That should hurt me. So stuff like that, with the disadvantaged area or like the heavily diverse area, focus on those communities, the likes of the Blanches, the Talas, and what we can do to encourage basketball in those. So I feel like if basketball improves in those areas, they'll improve across the board, kind of thing. So that's my take.
Hey, Jago, can I say something real quick, man?
Absolutely.
So this podcast, like you put it together, this edition, this one we're doing here, and it was because we wanted to talk about what happened with Burn It'll Burn and the comment and all that. And like, yo, it's unbelievable that like we have not talked about Burn It'll Burn. Like everybody got on here, like, yo, real shit. Everybody got on here and we started talking about like what's the situation with these black kids in Ireland and how can we make it better? You know what I mean? So like, yo, you flipped that shit. Like you flipped it, you flipped it. You flipped it. Because it was negative and everybody felt negative last Thursday or whatever day it happened. And we all felt like we felt a certain way about this situation. And, Basketball Ireland acted on it and Bernard has stepped down and whatever. Like we haven't spoken about that. And we weren't coming here to put Bernard in the crossfire and critique him as a man and critique him about what he feels. Like, because it don't matter. Like, that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like what matters is we have a lot of young black people who need to feel included and being able to play this game that we love so much. And I know for me, as being a black man, being a black American who moved over to Ireland, like, I could sit here and tell you for days how much basketball saved my life and kept me out of trouble and all this shit. And like all we want here, all of us, I think, is for these young black kids to feel that they have that home. You know what I mean? And the only reason, I spoke out on my story and I kind of went crazy last week. I I had the day to think about it and I kind of got home and I was like, shit, I need to speak on the whole Bernard situation. And the only reason that I was so fired up is because there's so many black kids that just like don't understand why he needs to make a joke about like Black Lives Matter. Like they don't understand it, and we need to be the voice for them. And our governing body and all of us who are involved with basketball, we need to help these young kids have that voice and know that they are cared for. And that was my biggest issue, man, is that like people can say shit that like they don't think is that important, but you're not thinking about that 13-year-old black kid who already feels crazy being in Ireland. And then he has to open his phone to people sending him that. Like, how does that kid feel? You know what I'm saying? And that shit fires me up. And so the fact that you put this podcast on and you got Andrew and Hill and Farooq here, and myself to talk about what happened, and everything that everyone's talking about is just a positive. Like, how can we turn this negative and flip it and build on it. I love that, man. I appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Look, Phil or Puff, one thing you've always taught me, recent conversations, is that next play mentality. Mm-hmm. And right now, that's where we need to be. It's not about the last play. That's gone. It's the next play is the important. So where we go from here as a group, as an organization, as people, is the important thing. What's gone is gone. You've missed that shot. You've missed that, you've blown your defensive cover. Fine. Let's get to the next play. That chapter's done. Let's get to the next play. Hill,
But Jago,
yo,
Black History Month, Basketball Ireland better put the fist up on that motherfucking page, bro. They better put that fist up. Facts. I need that.
Can I say something really quickly that might just be a little bit negative? I'm sorry, Prof, but so obviously, Basketball Ireland have been seen, as well as every other company in the world has been seen, to support the LGBTQ movement. And I believe, like, if a company is not to support that, right, or if they don't post something about it, they'll be ridiculed, right? But if, let's say, if the FAI posted something and said Black Lives Matter, right? Basketball Ireland didn't, and the Rugby Association didn't, nobody would say anything. So we have to get on that same level where every company in the world better be saying Black Lives Matter, better be saying Black History Month, we're celebrating this, we're shedding light at this. We need to be on that same level, because there's no way we can just keep getting left behind the whole time. Yes, sir, that's going to be up there. And I think I've been taking a very peaceful and standoffish approach to everything I've been saying, and Farooq actually gave out to me about this, that I was very much on the Martin Luther side instead of being on the Malcolm X side of things. And
nice comparison.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there was an interview that Tupac did on stage, and he was talking about something. He was like, Black people are hungry, and at the start we might go, can we have some food, please? 2 weeks later, it's going to be knocking on the door, hey, we need some food. 2 weeks after that, it's, yo, where's the food at? 2 weeks after that, we knocking down the doors.
Yeah, bow, I'm blasting.
So I don't want to get to a stage where I'm knocking down the doors and trying to shake people and be like, why do I have to explain this shit to you? Why don't you understand? I don't want to get to that stage. So I'm really thankful that you've put this together. And, I was a little bit hesitant about coming on, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here with all of you guys. And Andrew, thank you so much for the work you're doing as well. Really appreciate everybody here.
Appreciate you.
I wish there was another person on here.
Yeah, I'm missing.
She has a great voice, and she has a
right here. I have to say, I'm missing somebody. There should be like a 6 box right here. Somebody who's as passionate as we are, who's as articulate as Andrew is, who's educated, who's got her shit together. And you know what? She will get her own opportunity to speak on the shot clock. I guarantee she will be here at some point. We all know who we're talking about.
She's going to spaz out.
Big love.
Yep.
You're the reason that Andrew's here. We all know. So, Andrew, just to finish with you, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate everything that the guys were just saying there. Hillary alluded to MLK, Malcolm X dichotomy, if you will. But I always look to James Baldwin to learn about some of the lessons that, I need to know to teach young people in this country. And there's a quote from James Baldwin, which is, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. Right. And he's just so incredibly articulate.
That's the next tattoo.
I mean, I would say to anybody who's trying to learn about the Black experience, particularly in the United States, James Baldwin's a great person to read. There's a movie, I'm Not Your Negro, about him, and you will learn so much. This guy's so articulate, and he just describes the experience in such a way that, I found I've learned a lot from him. I mean, I would go back to the diversity panel, actually, as the path forward. When the diversity panel formed, there was a statement issued on the Basketball Ireland website. It said, we're going to be focusing on creating a welcoming environment for anyone interested in basketball to get involved in the sport. Great. It said, we will present updates on the panel's work and new initiatives to ensure that this is not a token gesture, going back to what Prof was saying about that 6 weeks box check, and that the work is given the support that it warrants, the financial support. So I think that we have the template there. The diversity panel said this is what we're going to do. You know, we made the point already, COVID has got in the way, right? We've not had events. We've not been able to have events in Ireland where basketball teams come out with say no to racism shirts before the games, you know, whatever small gestures we can make in terms of artwork, fist, whatever it might be, right? We haven't had the opportunity. When basketball returns, that needs to be done. You know, the teams need to have these, you know, signs at the games. These need to have, you know, little patches on the jerseys, whatever it is. These things need to be put in place. And then just go back to what the panel pledged it was going to do, you know, commit to an anti-racist organization on all levels. It committed to training and development of people. That means that people in the future can learn from this diversity panel, use the voices that you have on the panel, and be inclusive. That's really all that we can expect. And it just takes the support and outreach. And those are the key things. There's great people involved. The people who are sitting around my screen right now are all great people who can lead on this, and they just need to be empowered. And that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Look, that's the perfect sum up. I have one more question, as I always do on the podcast. Hillary Nets, this one's for you. What would it take to get you back in the diversity committee? What promises would you need, and what resources would you need? Because personally, I feel you need to be part of this, and the diversity committee without diversity just doesn't work. So Hill, what would get you back on?
I think the immediate thing is for the committee to be independent of Basketball Ireland. That's the first thing that needs to happen. We can't have obstructions in justice. Like, that's just, especially from our governing body, we can't have obstructions of justice. So that's the first thing we need. I was actually thinking about this question over the last couple of days. We need Sport Ireland to be in support of the committee. We need funding from them. We need, help with deploying these initiatives. Like, we've had the 3-on-3 events. We've had our teams represent the country in the 3-on-3 events abroad. You know, we've had our under-20 team. We've had whoever, like, Puff's team is going to be going away soon. They're going to be playing a game this weekend, actually. That's a perfect place for a statement to be made. You know, the patches, the whatever it is, there's opportunities for that. And we need support in implementing those things from Sport Ireland, from the whole basketball community in Ireland. We need more from everybody.
Great answer. Look, to sum it up, fellas, I just want to say I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your voices. Andrew, what you're doing is fantastic. I look forward to this report being finally done and published. And thanks for remembering that one dunk I had against Star way back when. they're rare these days. Hillary,
These days, you ain't dunking on nobody. What you talking about?
The only thing I'm dunking is donuts right now. But look, I needed this episode personally. I needed this episode. You know, as I said to you, I'm 45 this year. I was probably one of the first mixed race kids to play for my country. My country. Nobody fucking else's country. It's my country. I'm just going to say that now.
Go ahead.
me and Jason Sherlock were two, you know, mixed race kids playing on that Irish team, and we were embraced and we were loved and we were lauded and we were applauded when we were winning. The minute we lost, things changed. Okay? To have you guys on, I appreciate each and every one of you. Diversity is about many different groups. Today's talk is about race. It's about how we felt when a very important statement was joked about. That's not saying we don't look at the LGBTQ plus as not being as important. Of course we do. But unfortunately for us, Basketball Ireland does not afford us the same respect as it does to the LGBTQ plus people. Juneteenth, nothing. Black History Month, nothing. Pride Month, let's get the flag up. Let's be fair, Basketball Ireland. Let's be fair. We have a multitude of races, sexualities, sexual orientation, religion, whatever, playing in our organization. Please embrace each and every one of us with the same love that we give back to you as basketball players and coaches. That's all we ask. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking to be treated equally. And on that note, this is Jago saying, I'll see you all in the court soon. Peace out, fellas. So there you have it, our diversity and inclusion episode with 4 leading lights in that field. A big shout out and thank you to Andrew Sanders for appearing on the show. It's not every day we get a professor on the Shot Clock podcast. A special thank you to Mimi Troy for letting me use her fantastic logo that she designed, the Not Racism logo. Mimi, thanks a million, and hopefully we get to talk soon. Look, we'll be back to normal next week, hopefully. I just wanted to say a big shout out to Kojak, Elaine Scally, Darren McGovern and the under-20s for playing through all the bullshit. Like, let's put it, be fair. You don't deserve any of that. You're representing your country. Feel proud. 30 years later, I still have pride in what I did. And a big shout out as well to our friend of the podcast, Grania Dwyer, on her recent announcement that she's co-captain of the senior women's team, who are flying out this weekend to compete in the Europeans. Best luck, Grania, and the rest of the team, and other friend of the show, Hannah Thornton, obviously, as well. We've got some great episodes lined up now that we've got over the last 5 days. Let's be positive. Let's try and take some positive from that episode and make a difference. Be that guiding light. Be the change that's needed. Be an ally. And this is Jago saying, I'll talk to everybody on Tuesday. Take care.